Well, I was just in the middle of giving you really great stuff, and then all of a sudden that was it. I don't even think you said it when you were on stage. I think you said it while you were down, but you said you have to get back to a transactional mindset versus a volume mindset. And
Right.
for a lot of people, that was a really good point that hit home with a lot of people. So thank you for that nugget, because I wrote that down, I highlighted it, because it fell right in line with what Mike said, is that if you increase the transactions, even if prices go down, you'll still make more money.
Correct. And I said that because I fell into that. Like I've been doing 100, 105, 110 personal deals for the last few years. Last year I did like 67, so I fell into that. And what's weird is Mike called me about 10 minutes ago, just to ask. He asked me yesterday to do a Mike Ferry TV, and he said, what did you talk about? Because Mike didn't know what I was talking about. And my thing was 10 things to do the basics here in 2023. And on I think it was number 2, it was get back to a transactional mindset of what I wrote down in the video. I think it's so important to get back to that,
Absolutely.
Great point.
Very, very good. Okay, John Sullivan. Sullivan, let's get started here, okay? All right, Mastermind with Neil Schwartz is going live on Zoom and live on Facebook. John, welcome. We appreciate having you. Let's give John a big hand. Woo! All right, baby. All right, good job. So, John, it was fabulous seeing you a couple of weeks ago at the production retreat. And you really opened up and gave us some real interesting insights into you and what was happening in your world. You always look fabulous. You've got this great head of hair and you've got a giant smile. There's never a time I've talked to you that you haven't been just up, chipper, positive, and you probably greet all your clients that way too, right?
That part of the job is pretty easy to me. I'm one of them sick people who kind of like people. I actually like my clients. So, I think that definitely helps me, and probably why my listing appointments go on longer than they probably should.
Okay, very cool. John, what I wanted to do real quickly, if we've interviewed you one time before as you were on your way up. I see this in a couple of ways that really hammered home for me, is that you ramped up very, very quickly in a city you knew almost no one in, did a great job, and you proved that if you work the system will work for you in a huge way, number one. And number two, what we talk about all the time is when complacency hits, it can take you out at the knees. And that's another thing that happened to you. And then you came back, or are on the way back in that. And those are the 3 things I really wanted to talk about today. But give us a little Reader's Digest version of your story, how it started, how you came to Las Vegas, etc.
Yeah, so I was in England. I was a professional footballer, professional soccer player here. And we had a match on the Saturday, and the coach or the owner said, if you win today, I'm taking you to Vegas on Tuesday. So you tell 30 English guys that, we're going to win, right? So we won. We came to Vegas Tuesday. He gave us all like $500 each. And we said, let's go spend it on a nightclub, which is, what I would probably still do now. Went to a nightclub, and the first person I met was my waitress, who's now my wife, So I went back to England and played for a year, and then I quit and moved to America. I was about 26, 27. Had no job for about a year, and then one day my wife said, I think you do well at real estate. And that was basically it. I failed the test 7 times, not very smart. And then my first year I did 44 deals, and I thought, yeah, this is something I could really do,
That's great. That's great. Did you get introduced to Mike right away, or that was a process?
Yeah, so I interviewed with like 10 or 12 brokerages, and the guy I actually decided to go work for, his name was Craig Tan. Full disclosure, first 18 months I was on a team. I think my first year I did like 37 buyers. So that's kind of how I learned the business, mostly team deals. And on my first day at Berkshire Hathaway, where we were at the time, I got given these scripts which said, Mike Ferry scripts, and that was the first time I heard about him. And then 4 months later, I went to the production retreat and I did a 15-minute breakout session with Ramona Kozak, and I signed up for coaching then and there.
Fantastic. So you started doing, you for some reason had the ability to put deals together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of training, a lot of previewing property. What do you think was the trick here? That's a lot of business in your first year.
I think because I was showing up every day and working hard, my broker probably gave me more leads than the rest because he could see I was showing up. And I just kind of ran around like a headless chicken for the first 2 years. And I actually did stuff better then than I do now on some stuff. I was more aggressive because I needed the money. I was, I made more calls each day. I didn't leave the office till I set an appointment. All those great traits that when you first start, you have 6, 7, 8 hours a day to kind of prospect. But I got a lot of like team leads and stuff, and I was just able to convert them. A couple were just slam dunks like, hey, go show this house. And I showed it and they said, let's make an offer. My first ever lead was for a $40,000 condo. She bought 7, but only 4 through me. She fired me after 4. So that was a good learning lesson. So I just kind of, I wasn't used to making good money. So in the first 3 months of being licensed, I made like 30 grand. And to me, I was like, wow, this is a lot of money you can make. If I just started, I could make that,
Right. But you made the 30 grand and probably took 27,000 of it to the club.
Well, no, at that time I wasn't really doing that. But yeah, no, I don't know really. I just kind of had a really fast start and I was just fascinated by the business. It's done so different here to England. And I just couldn't believe not how easy it was, but how the process was really easy. Buying and selling houses in North America is much easier than Europe. It takes 6, 7 months. Here they don't want to do one contingency, where my parents just sold their house. There was like 14 contingencies in a row,
Right.
It seemed like a very simple business.
Very cool. So when you got started, you shifted gears, you were doing buyer deals. Did you immediately go into seller deals, or was there a process there?
The only seller deals I did in my first year were deals that I got who were buying and selling. Back then, 2016, you could kind of do that. It was easier. So I did 44, my first full year, 44 deals, 37 buyers, 7 were listings. I think 6 of those 7 listings they were buying and selling, and I think I just, and then in my second year, about halfway through, me and my broker said, I think it's best to go off on my own. Let's set a 3 or 4 month plan to build your inventory. And by that point, I was in coaching. I was basically operating as an independent agent, but on a team.
Right. Okay. Got it. And then took off from there. What was your first full year by yourself? What was the production?
Deals. My first ever year in real estate, 44 deals, made 211,000. Second year on my own, I did 56 deals. I made 400,000, I think it was. Third year, I did 75 deals, made 600. Then I just got up to the 100 deal mark and like making just under $1 million in weight, and then over $1 million the last few years.
Got it. Okay. So how many years total doing this?
Yes.
How many? Can't hear.
6.
6.
My 7th year.
This is your 7th year. Cool. Excellent. Okay. So you see other agents. Is Las Vegas a special town where you can do lots of deals? Or are there a lot of agents that try to get in the business and don't do anything like you've been able to accomplish?
I think what's weird for me is Mike is based in Vegas, but we don't have that many agents who do the Mike Ferry system, which is strange, So I've really tried to take advantage of that. It's, in my opinion, one of the best cities to do the Mike Ferry system because there's a lot of turnover. People buy and sell every 2 or 3 years. So even me now, I probably got 10 clients who have bought, sold in such a short time, because that's just what our city's like. So I think it's a great city and price point for the Mike Ferry system. I think when COVID happened, a lot of people who were like in the industry, on the strip, in the service industry, they got into real estate by default because it was the perfect time to do it. But I've seen most of them people leave already and go back to their regular jobs.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit, do you think your discipline in your sports was helpful in you getting started in this business?
I actually just spoke to Mike about this today. I don't know if it was my discipline. I don't think I'm the most disciplined guy ever. I don't.
I get it.
Turn up every day, I'll put a suit and tie on, but I'm not the most disciplined. There's much further better disciplined people than me. But in soccer, I was a goalkeeper. And you're part of a team, but you're basically a loner. And I'm a loner. I like to be alone, like masterminds, role plays, and all that stuff. It kind of scares me. I like to be alone. I'm a bit of a lone wolf. So real estate is lonely as an independent agent. Like this room here, this is my office. It's, whatever, 15 by 10. Now I spend my time in here. I'm basically in here alone all day, talking to a screen or to people. So I think being a goalkeeper and being alone has really helped my business being alone in real estate.
Okay, good. Appreciate that. Okay, so what you ramped up your business, you did what you were supposed to do, and then you got a little complacent.
Yep.
Talk to me about that. Tell me the process.
So I hired about 4 years in, I hired a buyer's agent, and 3 years with me, he's done 40 deals plus. He's a great buyer's agent, and I've always had great assistants. My assistant now is fantastic, so I've always delegated. And then we had that COVID year, which was my best year, and between me and my one buyer's agent, we did 126 deals, which for 2 agents, I think is pretty good. And then I just got complacent because it wasn't really easy. It's just the deals seemed to fall on our laps, and the commissions were big, and the houses were selling in a day. So you could go on like mini ramps, as I call them. You could go take 15 listings in, say, 45 days, and 90 days later, they're probably all going to be sold and you're going to have money. Whereas now, if you do that much listings, it's going to take a lot longer to sell, So I just got complacent.
Right.
My life was very lopsided. I was kind of like, I went from like everything in real estate to like too much personal. So I'm trying to find that balance, because for a few years there, it was too lopsided. My personal life and family life was suffering because my business I was making that my main priority, where it's important, but it's not everything,
Got it. Okay. So I want to clarify something. When I say you're a professional soccer player, or were a professional soccer player, a lot of people have heard what some of these soccer players make. So you weren't in that group, right?
I was always like the lowest paid player on the team before taxes. I think my last year in England, I was maybe making, about £2,400 a month. I was getting in my paycheck. You got paid once a month in England. It wasn't a lot. So if I make a month,
35,000 pounds a year,
pretty much that after taxes and stuff, it wasn't a lot of money. And
right. So US, that wouldn't even be 50 grand, right?
What's weird is I was making like triple what my friends were making, because people in England make so much less money, even though it's more expensive. So that was another thing when I started seeing the money side of real estate. By giving good service, because the rewards are really there. So no, I definitely wasn't making the money that people probably think I was.
Right. So John, we talk about good service. We say, I give great service, and now, et cetera. Mike talks about, you get paid in proportion of the service that you give. Give us some examples of the service that you're offering, that you do normally, naturally, to be able to say that.
So I guess for me, I have great relationships with the majority of my clients. There's always going to be examples. I think we over communicate. So I feel like what we're really good at as a team is the clients very rarely have to reach out to us asking a question. We've already got there first. So for me, that's good service. But like when I'm doing something, so right now I'm like remodeling my new property we just bought. If I'm always following up asking questions, I feel like that should have been squashed already. So we're always trying to think ahead and trying to think of what are the questions they're going to ask and handle that immediately, right? So it could be something simple as, we had a showing, say last night at 6 p.m. and I want to get that feedback to them on the showing before they call me and say, hey, do you have any feedback? Those little kind of traits that we really focus on,
Those are great. So you anticipate what the client's needs are or what the client might be calling you about before they call you or start emailing, right?
Like just little things. Like I went on a listing appointment earlier this week, and they're on the fence about selling now because they got capital gains they have to talk about. And I said, do you want me to email you some questions about what to ask a CPA to see if we can sell now or later? And they said, yes, please do that. As soon as I got in my car, I emailed them. I got it to them immediately. And I just think that is really important, especially in today's world. We have to be really quick on everything. And if we say we're going to do something, we have to make sure we do it. You know, it's really important.
Wow, John. So you actually do what you say you're going to do?
I do that with my clients. Probably need to do it better with my at home. But yeah, I think we do with our clients, you know, and sometimes during COVID, we slacked on that. We got complacent. We forgot about the client, you know. Mike always teaches us to speak to the client at least once a week. I'm trying to get back to twice a week right now. I feel like with the market, we need to be speaking to them more, you know.
Okay, it's great thought. So, John, you're not happy with 67 transactions that you did last year. I get that. Although 67 transactions for a lot of agents is way more than they've ever done in any one year, and it could be 3 or 4 years worth of business. So it's not that bad. Okay.
ISH had a great year, so we actually did 100 together. So but yeah, I left a lot on the table. But again, my income was down, but not massively because the prices are so high.
The prices are up. Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, you talked at the retreat a number of times, and you're kind of alluding to it here. What are 3 or 4 of the things you're going to change or ramp up, or what is it you're going to do different? And could you do me a favor? Could you speak up just a little bit, please?
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so I think this is the year of getting back to basics. I really do. So the first thing is arriving at the office at the same time every day. I have slipped away from that massively. And it's such a small thing, but it's so big, you know, especially.
Sure, absolutely.
Schedule says you've got to be at the office at 7 a.m. You've got to be at the office at 7 a.m. It's just those little disciplines that feed through the rest of your day. So that's probably one of the things I'm thinking about. Definitely transactional mindset. I'm not thinking so much about the income goal. Obviously, it's still in the back of my mind, but I'm really thinking about the transactions. And what was crazy is I was playing golf with Mike about 2 weeks with actually Amber and John, who you know. We were playing golf, and it was Mike said it. So we were on the tee box, and John asked Mike, "How's the market?" And Mike said, "Actually, do you know Vegas has gone from 5,000 homes a month selling down to 15 or 1,800?" And he said, "We only need John to do 10 a month." And he said that, and I was like, "It's so simple. I only need to find 10 deals a month. That's my goal, you know? Can I find 10 deals a month?" So getting back to that transactional mindset, 10 deals a month, 10 deals a month. I mean, that could be 120 to 150 people in my database this year. It's massive, you know? So that's something else I'm thinking about. I've got to stop micromanaging my staff. For some reason, since I haven't been as busy, I've been a little bit overlooking.
Anal.
Yeah, that's a good word. I try not to swear. Just, you know, like, because we've created avoidance, right? We want to make sure we feel like we're doing a work day, and when we get slow, start micromanaging, which is something which I'm really trying to step away from because they're great at what they do. And then for me this year, it's 3 to 4 Mike Ferry events where Mike speaks. That's probably my number one. And obviously the other events are great, the prospecting clinics, when Ira, Ron and stuff speak, but actually listening to Mike speak 3 or 4 times, because if I'm like anyone else on this call, when you leave those events, you leave pumped up, you leave inspired, you learn something, you know, and I think that's important. And then one thing I've really got to start doing now is I used to bring 1 or 2 questions to all my coaching calls. I haven't done that in like 18 months. You know?
Wow.
So I need to get back more re-engaged of having a a preset coaching call routine, 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Okay, what am I working on? What did I do from the call last week? What questions do I have for my coach? I'm currently with Mitch Chaboyan after my time with Mike, the experience we had ended. Bringing those questions back to the table, which will just make the coaching call and the experience much better,
So can I give you a little coaching tip right now on that subject? What we teach our agents to do is to take 15 or 20 minutes before the call. They have to sit down and be at a place, not in their car, but focused 15 to 20 minutes before the call. And then the call is, 20 to 30 minutes long with 3 or 4 questions written down in a book. But the most important time, John, is the 30 minutes after the call. And that has to be clear for you to take action. Because if you don't take action immediately and you go to the next thing, you lose that whole period of time.
Okay.
You'll get so much out of your coaching calls by doing that.
My 30-week coaching call is every Friday at noon. So if I did 45 to say 12:30 blocked out, and I do 15 minutes before, have my call 30, and then 12:30 to 1 o'clock I take out.
12:30 to 1 o'clock is actually the money time. What Mike or anyone else your coach is talking to you about has value, of course. Yet if we are done with the call and we're running to an appointment, or we're running to lunch, or we're picking up the phone to put out a fire, the call's a miss. Take the time and think about your call.
I've got to implement that right away, starting tomorrow.
Take action. Absolutely. Good job. See how coachable you are? Boom.
Let's make sure.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure coaching people like that. Boom. They just do it. Boom. No questions. Just boom. I love it. Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you need to do or you would recommend an agent do right now to quote unquote get back to basics?
I think if you don't have an assistant or admin, or if you're involved in your transactions too much, we have to be involved, but not too much. I think we need to get back to that 75 to 80% of the day is activities to get business. We have to do more. We have to do more to do either less or the same. We have to be doing more. So we need to learn to delegate a bit better right now, I think.
Smart. Very, very smart. It occurs to me that when you got in the business in Vegas, that you really didn't know much of the inventory because you hadn't lived there. You had no idea where things were. and you had no idea what the houses looked like inside. So how much previewing did you do?
Not much. Maybe online I did a little bit. I would always, like when I first got the MLS, I'd sit on the computer at night with my laptop looking at properties. I was like, wow, I can see every house. This is weird. So I do a lot of online preview. I really learned the neighborhood I live in. It's called Southern Highlands. Probably maybe 10,000 homes, maybe a bit more. I really learned that kind of area. Just like different streets. So now if someone says a street in Southern Highlands, I basically know where it's at immediately.
Sure.
Be the expert in that area, but I didn't do too much. I did 2 or 3 open houses. I think because I was all over town all the time. Remember, Vegas is 20 to 30 minutes. So I just learned the town really quickly, and I have a pretty good memory in terms of like addresses and communities, which I'm lucky to have.
Good. Excellent. Good. Can we open it up for some questions? Questions for John Sullivan. Sullivan. Sorry, John. All right. Questions for John.
I have a question. This is Monica.
Sure, Monica, go ahead.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for sharing and all this great stuff with us. So your database, what are the two nuggets that you do monthly without fail to communicate with your database?
Monthly. So my database, email the entire database on the 15th of every month at 6 a.m. I do the 15th because I feel like everyone sends theirs on the 1st, and I don't want to get lost in the crowd, just my kind of own personal opinion. I call all my A-list once a month.
Okay.
I built my database from pretty much day one, so I have a really good relationship with them. But really, it's you've got to do the 4 calls a year, massive. And now I'm trying to get in the mindset of not just 4 calls, but 4 times live on the phone. You know, live on the phone. Sometimes when we reach their voicemail 3 times, you know, we count it as a contact. But I'm trying to actually get them on the phone at least 4 times a year. I think that's really big. And then I've started adding my clients to a system called HomeBot. It's like a valuation site, but I seem to have really good engagement on it. It's actually pretty good. It's good information. And that started to bring out some like replies like, what do I need to do to get my house ready for sale? Or thank you for sending this, John. And that seemed to have a really good input on my business, actually.
Oh, okay. Nice. Thank you. Anything else you want to share on that note?
Struggling with on your business, like database, is there anything particularly you think you're missing out on?
Oh, you cut out. Can you say that again?
Like, what are you not doing well with your database that you want to do? Because my database is only 650 people, but I get quite a lot of deals from my database each year, you know?
What do you think you're getting out of that? What did you get last, let's say, the year before out of that?
The year before, it was like 65%, 70% of my business was database.
Right. And how many deals was that? 6 or 7, 65, 70?
Yeah, I did 107 personal that year. But as a team, 146. Most of my buyers agents teams come from that too, leads. So probably 157. It was high. It was probably at least 80 deals came from that, 90 deals.
So, and about 600 people, 550 to 650?
Yeah, I've got in my database. Yeah, I've started adopting the other side. Started doing.
Good. Excellent. And you've been building that database for how long?
From day one, my broker told me to build a database. So I was lucky where I see a lot of agents take 3 or 4 years to start. But I actually started my database from like day one because I had set up, you know, I put my wife in there, you know.
So, you know, Mike always tells us that if you touch your people enough, 4 to 6 times a year, you should be able to do 10% of that database in direct and indirect business. And it sounds like you're actually doing more than 10%. You're probably closer to 15%. So congratulations, John. Keep screwing up at a high level.
Now Mike's telling me I've got to speak to more people. I've neglected some of the other sources. So, you know, if I keep at this rate, my business will grow slower because I'm not adding enough, right? So it's a very hard dynamic to get to, but it's I love getting referrals. I mean, and Mike Ferry Agents has been, I've got 4 referrals this week from Mike Ferry Agents. You know?
Yeah, that's so cool. Congratulations. We'll put your information in the chat box and hopefully you'll be able to get some referrals from this group. Other questions for John Sullivan? Other questions for John Sullivan?
Speaking of the chat box, Neil, there's a question in the chat box. What are your main sources of leads?
Thank you, Robert.
My best ones are probably database and actually expired. So I did pretty good with the expired. So especially now, they're coming back in abundance, you know.
Got it. Jake, you had a question? Thank you, Robert. Thank you, John. Jake, you had a question?
Hi, John. Thanks. One of the things that I heard you say some time back was, if you can't make it here in America, you can't make it anywhere. And that's one of the things that gets me up in the morning too. I appreciate that, John.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
John, I have a question. Sylvia Morris from Toronto. What is your schedule daily? I'll be very interested to hearing it.
Yeah, so for me, it's arrive at the office at 7 a.m. Get on the phones at 7:30, prospect to 11. And then 11 to 12 is generally lead follow-ups or any like really important calls I have to make, you know, whether it's a price reduction or following up on an offer for a client. They're like really important calls in that 1 hour time. So I normally do all that in the morning. Then 12 to 2 admin. I normally go on appointments like 2:30 onwards. I never take morning appointments or early afternoon appointments ever. It just screws up your day, you know. I think anyway.
I have another question.
That, can I just ask, is that the end of your day? What time do you stop?
Depends on how many appointments I have. I mean, if I've done everything in my day and I don't have an appointment, I can stop at 3 o'clock or keep calling. But generally I go on appointments from 2:30 through to 6:30ish, you know. But if someone wants to meet at 7 o'clock at night, I'll do that. I don't care, you know. So, but I just make sure I don't start my appointments before 2:30. Because if I do that and it's not a good appointment or they don't show up or, you know, I feel like it derails me for the rest of the day, you know.
Interesting.
You don't have appointments, John. What time do you go home at?
God, you're like my wife. Normally I'm 3, 4 o'clock, or I go do something. I pick my daughter up from school or go play a little golf. You know, if I feel like I've done my day and I've prospected and I've done all my jobs and I've done my tasks and I don't have an appointment that day, I'm okay with that. You know, obviously I want an appointment, but I'll go home and enjoy the rest of the day because I know the next day I could have 3 appointments, you know.
Great, great. And how many days do you normally work? In a normal work day, how many days do you work?
5, yeah.
So you take weekends off. Okay,
Weekends, kind of 18 months, yeah.
great. Thank you for sharing. That's wonderful.
Got
I
it.
do have a question for John.
Sure. Go
John, this
ahead,
is Adriana
Adriana.
in Las Vegas. Thank you. This is Adriana in Las Vegas. John, going back to the schedule, you say you start making calls at 7:30. And I gotta admit it, always I was kind of hesitated because by law, we cannot making calls before 8 o'clock in the morning.
And John
Have
is
you
not
had any-
advocating that you should.
Or the East Coast where it's 10:30 in the morning.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What you saying?
So I call people who is past 8 o'clock. So maybe.
Okay, so you don't making call at 7:30. You making call at 8:30 at 8?
Well, I start some calls. It depends if it's a current client or a hot lead. But there's also people on the East Coast that I can call who have second homes here. And obviously it's 7:30 in Vegas, but it's 10:30 on the East Coast.
Oh, okay, I see. Make more sense. Thank you so much.
All right, good job. Thanks. Hey, in the chat box, it says, Joey wants to know what books you're reading and how you feed your mind to keep it strong.
Not a good reader. I don't read much.
Okay.
I watch a lot of YouTube videos, mainly golf. So I try and just have balance. I'm very serious about this business, but I don't think about it like, I think about it all the time, but I'm not like, what's the word? I don't beat myself.
Obsessed.
I'm obsessed when I'm here. I'm obsessed, right? I wake up and I'm motivated. You know, I get up at 4 every day. I'm motivated to do deals. I'm motivated to get to the office and prospect. But when I'm home, I don't think I need to read a motivational book because I feel like I'm already kind of motivated. You know, it's like it's in me. You know.
Got it.
But I do listen to books in the car. I like Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Ryan Serhant. I like Matthew McConaughey's audiobook I just read. I thought it was excellent. But I kind of listen to a lot of sports players and like golfers really because I think there's a lot of similarities as they're kind of on their own, you know.
And it's a solitary game.
It is. But I will also say most of my stuff I listen to is from Mike.
Well, that's pretty smart. Good job. Armin, did you have a question?
Yeah, you know what? I find it interesting that you said you don't get your discipline from football, soccer. So I'm kind of curious, what did carry over from your soccer days to real estate?
Well, when I played soccer, if you were a minute late to the match, you wouldn't play and you'd be fined a week's wages. So there were disciplines that I never thought about when I played that when you're part of a sports team, you just naturally have, you know? So like getting to the office at the same time every day, that just seemed normal because that's what I had to do. I don't know. probably the drive, you know, like an inner drive. But I think for me, it was more about the opportunities because I'm not from America. And I feel like this is the best country in the world. And the opportunities we have are not normal. So I think that's the advantage I have because most of the people in real estate are American, most of them, not everyone. And I feel like for me, I don't want my life to go backwards. I want it to go forwards. That's what really drives me is I don't want my quality of life to go backwards. We have a great quality of life, a lovely home. That's what drives me, keeping up with the family.
Well, I can certainly appreciate you see that this is the goose that laid the golden egg. That's what I tried to tell my children through growing up. Hey, you happen to live in a country that you can become rich. And Neil likes to say, we're in a business that there's no income limit.
But not even becoming free, you know, like it's you have so much freedom. Yeah, no, I mean, but then, you know, like anyone, if you tell someone, they're gonna have to realize that for themselves, you know, like that's the big thing. They have to, then if they've never known anything different, it's hard for them to realize that.
Well, you coming from another country with different things, you're in a sport that some people make millions, tens of millions of dollars a year, you know, and you're on the lower end of that scale. And yet you come into real estate in this country and you're making way better than the average agent. So congratulations. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Really, really good. Go
I
ahead,
have a quick
Tiffany.
question.
Tiffany, go ahead.
John, thank you so much. I have a question regarding when you first started. How was your schedule like? Did you work 6-7 days a week, or did you work nighttime and all that? When did you start having an assistant to help you with all that load?
I hired an assistant pretty early. About 18 months in, I hired my first assistant. I hired a transaction coordinator like pretty much immediately. And then after 18 months, I actually hired my first assistant. So I did that. That was one of the good things I did. I always put an assistant in place before I needed them. Then I put a second assistant in place before we needed them, because sometimes you can get so busy and then you want to find an assistant, but you can't slow down because you need to do the deals and it's just like never ending. So even right now, we're looking for a new assistant for the team now because we feel we want to scale. And before we're there, we want to put people in place. When I started, I worked like 7 days a week, 20 hours a day. Was just relentless, kind of just trying to learn the business, because what's interesting about real estate is we get paid to learn the business in training. Like your first year or two, you're kind of in training, but we can still make money. Where most companies, when you go in training, they just pay for your gas. So that's something which I really wanted to speed up, that acceleration of learning while still being paid.
That's great. Great question. Thanks, Tiffany. Good stuff. Other questions for John?
Yes. Another question. John, when you call expired, do you leave messages when there's no answers?
Only if they've confirmed on the voicemail it's them. So if they say, "Hi, this is Nancy. Sorry, I can't reach you right now." Then at that point, I might leave a message and maybe send a text. Maybe depends on how much I know about the property and if I really want it. So yeah, only if they've confirmed that it's them. But I try not to take too much time in your prospecting.
Thank you.
Great stuff. John, Joseph's got a question, and I don't know if you know these numbers. When you're cold calling, just listed or just sold, how long does it usually take for you to convert those leads to a deal and an appointment, and then an appointment? You have a feel for that?
It's hard to judge that. It's hard to judge that because you can do a just listed, just call when they want to sell. But generally, for me, if I get a semi lead on that, they're normally a few months out, or they may say, "I want to sell in 2 years," right? So I don't know. I don't know if I could give you a solid answer. What I would say is if you're calling expireds or for sale by owners and you're just not having a good answer rate that day, which happens to all of us, just start banging out just sold calls, because people are going to answer and it just gets you back in a rhythm, But I don't know if I can actually answer. I don't have a specific answer for that.
Got it. Do you, let me change the question slightly. Do you hold to, if it's not a 7-day lead, you're not gonna, at least 7 days or under, you're not going to work it? Do you hold on to things a little longer?
Yeah, my lead follow-up is probably my biggest strength, and sometimes it hinders me. But for me, my definition of a hot lead is like within the next 7 to 21 days. That's like where I see, like, if someone says we're going to list our home in end of March, to me, that's a hot lead. That's just me, you know?
Okay. Okay.
I need to change that mindset to do more deals because I know the top agents do less. But if I do it just as just sold call and they say they want to move in September when their kid finishes school, I'm going to put them in for a calendar call. I'm going to call them every 30 days, you know, because I know from experience that that could change. And I might even say, hey, I'm actually going to be in the area. Do you mind if I drop off some information if I think they're really motivated? Like, I will do that, you know.
Got it.
Started doing that more the last 2 months to get back in the rhythm of real estate, you know, of like really pounding the pavement. And I've had some great responses to it. I really have.
Great. Fantastic. Other questions?
Neil, I got a question. It's Keith. How's it going, John? Good to see you, man. Hey, you talked a little bit about HomeBot and how you've recently adopted that technology and how you've seen some success. Would you mind just diving into, you know, some of the systems that you're using to organize your business and keep you organized and leverage, you know, those tools to make you more efficient?
When I'm in the office, I use sticky notes, as you can see.
Yeah, that's me too.
When I'm in the office, cross it off, trash it. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Business. All of my leads, all my Vulcan 7 calls, everything goes into Mojo. Everything is Mojo. Okay. Reminders, calls, data. And then when I do my closed deal follow-up, the first 30 days, that's Mojo too. My database is called Morris Marketing. So once they're a past client or a listing, they go in there. And in HomeBot, it's just, I add mainly my database in there, but if I have a good prospecting call, you know, sometimes I say, hey, I'll try and get their email, you know, just for a win, and I might add them to that too. And that's kind of, so
Got it.
Everything pretty nimble. I think that's one of the good things I do is I don't have like 25 spreadsheets. Mine's very simple.
Everything's in one spot where you can access it and get to it quick. Cool. Great.
Morris Marketing for database. That's how I run my business. And they're always open every day. I see them all day.
Got it. All right, good. Deepa asked a question, John. What kind of stuff do you delegate to your system?
Pretty much everything minus I do negotiations. They generally do the repair negotiation. Generally, I'll step in if I have to, but she's probably better at me than that anyway, to be honest with you. She does all my paperwork. I don't do any paperwork or anything like that. She answers my phones while I'm prospecting. She keeps me on my schedule. She keeps me accountable. What else does she do? Pretty much everything, honestly. I like to make the big calls. So if a deal cancels, right, I don't let her make that call. I make that call because I think that it re-emphasizes that I'm a strong agent, you know? And then that's also an opportunity for me to get a price reduction, right? So, you know, hey Neil, sorry, the guy backed out. Obviously, we're listed at 700,000. You know, we're in escrow for 650. Unfortunately, this buyer walked away, but why don't we now market the price at 650? And then I try and get a price reduction, right? So I make all those big calls and positive. This morning, an appraisal came in on a house and I made the call to the seller. Hey, just great news. The appraisal's coming at value, you know, so I think that's important.
Got it. Excellent. Thanks. Hey, question from Kamal is, as a new agent, what would you say would be the fastest way to start your career?
I like agents starting on the right team. That's just my philosophy. I think making it on your own is very tough. And although we all want to get to being a listing agent, just work by it. It doesn't matter. Get the experience. You become a better listing agent by showing property and negotiating because you learn the process quicker. And even to this day, some of my best referrals are those buyers I did in the first 18 months of my career, because you spend that little bit more time with them, you know?
Good.
So I would say, even though we all want to become 100% or 90% listing agents, don't neglect buyers just because that's what we hear all the time. That's what we want to do in the future. As a new agent, take anything you can get and just don't be a secret agent. So I just got a listing for 800,000 this week of a guy I met at the auto shop getting car tin like 18 months ago. He reached out to me on HomeBot actually and replied saying, "Hey John, I'm ready to sell my house. Can you call me?" So make sure wherever you're at, wear a suit and tie. When you go to Starbucks, who can you meet? Who can you give your car to without being a cheesy realtor, you know, but bringing some value? How can you do that? You know?
Good. Great thought, John. Appreciate it. Excellent stuff. Any other questions real quick?
You know what, Neil, I do want to go to Irish's question, because we talk about building the database all the time. And so, John, at the beginning, how did you build your database? What were you doing to start at 0 and get your database up to 600?
Start. You know, I wasn't even really getting like any personal leads or any like sphere of influence leads of people I was giving money to, because I wasn't really doing stuff like that. So really at the start, it was all transactions. It was just like clients, you know, my first year. So if I did 44 deals, I'd have 44 people in my database, you know. I didn't adopt buyers at the start, which is something which I'd recommend too, is trying to adopt the other side, because you can see from the transactions, a lot of the time the buyer's agents wasn't a great representative, or they're not following up, you know. So I would suggest that definitely your transactions, but anyone you're giving money to, you know, like your laundrette, car cleaner, like, you know, you go to Starbucks and see the same person every day. You never know who knows someone. I think I've got like 5 or 6 transactions over the last few years from Uber drivers, you know. Uber drivers was my best source in like 2020, you know. So I would just say, yeah, just try and bring value and just add people don't just add people for the sake of it, right? If you have a good justice just soul call, don't add them to your database. That doesn't make any sense.
Got it. All right, good stuff. Excellent. Okay, everybody, unmute yourselves. Unmute yourselves, please. Let's give John a big hand. Woo!
Thank you, John.
Right.
Thank you.
It's
All
worth it.
right.
Excellent,
you,
John.
Thank you.
Wow, fantastic stuff. We really appreciate you and your time.
Thank you so much.
Really cool. Right now, what we tend to do is we're going to go around the room. You're welcome to stay, or if this is a hard stop for you, we totally get it. And then we just go around the room and ask questions. What did I learn today? What did you learn today? And we're going to rock through that. So if you want to hang and listen in, that's great. If not, we'll send you a copy of the tape here pretty soon, another couple of days. And again, John, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it. I've actually got 2 calls that I've got to make now. So send me the link and I'll watch it after. And then if anyone in the room has a question, I think my cell phone's up there, just give me a call, email me like later, whenever you want to call, and I'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Let's give him a big hand one more time. Woo! All right.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Okay. What did we learn today? What did we learn today? Who wants to go first?
I'm going to go first because I got to jump after this, but we offer HomeBot for free. So if you're not on our system, and Armin made sure, he's like, hey, you got to put a dirty plug in here.
Shameless plug, shameless.
A shameless plug.
Not
That's probably
dirty.
It's better than a dirty plug.
Shameless.
Yes. So listen, you guys all have access to it. If you sign up for our follow-up boss, we offer Ylopo, and HomeBot is free. So you can be sending home valuation reports, the same ones that John's using, and you get notified every time someone opens it up. So if you haven't already started to use that system, you can email me separately. It's just keith@fullrealtyservices.com. Or if you have Hunter's contact information, you can email him, get on his Calendly, and he'll walk you through that entire process.
All right. Those for all the people that aren't part of Century 21 Masters. There can't be many.
Yeah.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it. Okay. What else do we learn today? What else? What else? What else? Who's next? Raise your hand, say something. Nobody learned anything from that?
I'll go, Neil.
Thank you, Robert.
I was trying to let other people go, but you know,
I
the expressive can only
know.
wait so long.
Exactly. 3 seconds, Robert. No.
I learned a few things, but you know, I think the biggest thing that he does that is a reminder for everybody is we have to put things in perspective. This is a guy who is only in his 7th year in the business, and last year he did 67 deals and was really upset at himself because it was a down year. And so he's saying that he's got to get back to basics. So the question that I wrote down for everybody, myself included, is if he's doing 67 deals and says, I have to get back to basics, if you're doing 5, why are you not getting back to basics? If you're doing 0, why are you not doing the basics? You know, and I say that because I'm not even sure this is a shameless plug or not, but we do role play every morning from 8 to 9, and most of you are not on there. So I'm left to believe that you're doing role play somewhere else. Or, you know, I ask all the time, hey, record your listing presentation and send it. And some of you do, most of you don't. How many of you actually sent your business plan to a coach? How many of you wrote out the 3 to 5 things that make you different? How many of you have a set schedule that you follow every day? These are the basics. And if a guy doing 67 deals is talking about how he needs to get back to the basics, my guess is all of us need to do that. So I thought that was a really great reminder on his conversation.
Absolutely, Robert. You bet. All right, great job.
Can I-
Excellent. What else did we learn? Armin, go ahead.
You know what? I think he's a perfect example of someone that is not attached to the outcome. And it kind of reminds me of Milton also, because Milton had 110 listings, had 28 drop out. I would have died. He said it was like $250,000. Well, John didn't do what he wanted to do last year, but he said he still had one of the greatest years of his life. So that tells me he's not attached to the outcome.
Very well said. Thank you. Matab, do you have a Matab? Go ahead.
You know, I think for me was when he said go back, because that's what I got from the retreat, is going back to the basic. I remember my broker Fadi, end of last year, he got 3 of us, especially the ones in my query, in a room, and he said, the skills that you had put away for the past 2.5 years in a drawer because you didn't need them, things were easy, pull them out and dust them off. And he was so right, because since I got back from the retreat, I started writing the listing presentation every single day. And I was shocked my first day. Now I wrote it, remember, I wrote it for a whole year in 2019. But truthfully, I didn't use the listing presentation as much the last 2.5 years because it was easy to get the listing just without even going through the whole thing.
Yeah,
and I was
the
shocked.
presentation was, what do you want? Okay.
Pretty much, exactly. So as I'm writing, I started with the first sentence, and I stopped for a second, and I'm looking at it. I'm looking at the original script. I'm going, holy mother of God, how much did I ad-lib in there? And I wrote this for a year. So It is so important we go back to role plays and back to just the basics and focus on the transaction, not the dollar.
Well said, Matab. Thank you. Good stuff. What else do we learn today?
Hey, Neil, good things are coming out of the soccer world too, huh?
And good things come out of the soccer world, Michael. Absolutely. Good point. All right. What else do we learn today?
Well, I would like, if
Neil?
somebody, I would just like to say, I have the exact same, I use the same company, Morris Marketing. I'm not connected, I don't own it. And it's a great database if you want to keep your clients.
I use them too. It's really great. I agree. I use them too.
Good to know. Thank you. Who else had, somebody else?
I had a question. Oh, I just had a
Come on,
comment.
go ahead. Come on. Go ahead.
I think 2 points I got. Number one was be patient and learn the business. I think sometimes we're trying to rush and not learn the business. And number two, it seemed like he's pretty obsessed when he's working, and when he's playing, he's playing. So, he's pretty obsessed at that time.
Clearly, I think you're correct. I think he made that clear 2 or 3 different times. Absolutely.
Well, he said when you do something, don't do it just 100%. Be engaged. He said that at the retreat.
Yeah. Absolutely. With intention.
Yes.
Exactly. What else do we learn today? What else did
You
we learn?
know, Neil, I'll go into Armin's point on when he said, my real estate business was down, but it was still the best year of my life because he spent more time with his family and things like that. I think it's really important that this goes probably to the importance of having a schedule. And you always taught us to, when you put the schedule, to put family first.
Right.
Whenever you're doing the calendar for the year, put family first and then put the real estate stuff there, because we're in a profession where sometimes it feels like we do get dragged at 7 o'clock at night to an appointment, or to a Saturday, Sunday, I have to do an open house, I have to do a showing. And you really need to make sure that you have balance in your life. If you have a spouse, if you have kids, if you have family, friends, that are really important to you, you can't neglect that. And, he talked about that as, that's a really important thing for him. And he really got back to that, and he's happier than ever in terms of that. So even if your business is down, don't make everyone else around you suffer.
Including your brokers and managers and coaches.
Good.
For sure. Absolutely. Look, we have to put family first. Family has to be first, in large part because I believe that family should come first. However, the practical side is, if you don't put your family first, they are going to make you crazy until they become first. That's the practical side of our reality. So let's do the right thing first, so that the other things fall into place. So well said. Okay, anything else we learned today from John Sullivan?
Sorry, this is not about learning from John Sullivan, but Morris Marketing, because I know you guys have a lot of Spanish in there. They would do bilingual for you because I do French and English here, and they do it for me.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah.
All right. And Caesar said, is that he learned to anticipate client needs, let them know what to expect from the transaction. Absolutely. Really smart idea. Okay.
One more question, Neil.
Sure, Miriam.
This is not about him, but this morning, my role play partner asked me if someone asked me, like a client, to have a date before signing the contract. It never happened to me. What is the best way to deal with that?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sign the contract and I'll go on a date.
Yeah, before.
wait.
But it never happened to me. Never happened to me. But she asked me this morning, and I said, "What?" I would, I'll tell him sign the contract and we'll see later. But it's not. I am married, so I'm not interested in. So
Look,
I don't know.
If anybody ever said that
Mm-hmm.
to my advice from me
Mm-hmm.
is I would turn around and walk away.
Run.
Okay. 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 Good.
And Robert's probably even smarter. Run away. Nothing.
Of course,
good,
I couldn't just say
nothing-
that because I've never had that problem, but
Nothing good, in my opinion, from my view, could come from that. Anything else?
Oh, okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
plus, from my perspective, the whole rest of the transaction, even if nothing happened and it was a kidding thing, it's all tainted now.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree. Yeah.
It's all tainted. How do I trust that person? I don't know. I don't want to go too far down that street, but I would just turn, it's like, maybe I would say it like this, when we get into the situation where it's like a block busting thing, or you want to do something in a neighborhood and somebody asks a question, how many of X group of people are in this neighborhood? The answer really is, I don't understand the question. Okay. you don't even respond.
Mhm.
Okay, and that's kind of how I feel about that one.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
Okay.
help, Miriam?
Yeah, a lot. Because it never happened to me, but in the
You know,
future, if
and when
something
you run
happened,
into
because
a,
sometimes we don't want to lose the listing or the business, and
I
That's why I
understand.
was saying it's worth keeping if the guy started
Yeah.
it this way.
Yeah,
yeah,
Sorry.
good.
exactly.
Thank you. It really helped. Thank you
For
so
those
much.
of you that role play, my suggestion is when something like that comes up as a question, and it's probably a harmless question, just push the button in the room, and you get Robert or Jesse or myself, and we'll answer those questions, whether it's how to handle this or what to do in this. Because what we're trying to do in the role play experience is to keep you all going down a similar path. If you go off the path, then you don't get what you should be getting out of the role play experience. So kind of raise your hand, get one of us over there, we'll put it back on track, and then we can talk about it at another time. Okay?
Okay.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, Robert, Jesse, who's up for open mic?
Miriam.
As I'm opening that up,
Miriam.
what was your Neil? What was your takeaway?
Oh, thank you. My takeaway was hoping of what I got, and that was, here's a guy that, how did he ramp up so fast? How did he, we've talked to him before when he's ramping up. More importantly, what got him off track? And I'm hearing this from a lot of agents and a lot of brokers right now, that they're having difficulty restarting and getting the mojo back, et cetera, et cetera. That's why a number of agents are switching companies to us, because what we do is we put people, we know what you're supposed to do, we get you to do it, and we keep you on track with it. Some people don't want that, and that's okay. But the ones that do, ask for help. One of the last points Mike made in business maturity, and if you don't have the notes on business maturity, you should get them. They're fantastic. But one of the last points is ask for help. Ask for help. If you're not where you're at, ask for help and we will help you. We have a plan. We have the accountability. This is not a shameless plug. This is the truth. All right, everybody. Robert, Miriam, take the call. It's yours.
Miriam Matab, Barry,